收看 Talk Careers Taiwan 赢在职涯，让 ITI 台湾最专业的商务人才训练机构，带您用中英文与各领域大神喝咖啡聊职涯。
Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of Talk Careers Taiwan. As you know, our podcast focuses on providing our audience with career advice, guidance, and insight on unexplored careers. I'm Marie, and on today's show, we'll be in conversation with the Executive Director of CRE8. Under his steady leadership, CRE8 is now a team of 45 designers and engineers. He has been honored with 116 major design awards to date, invited as a juror for the renowned IF Design Award, and been a keynote speaker at many global events such as the Computex Forum. So to all our listeners out there, if you have not explored product design as a career option before, then today's episode could be a good source of inspiration. Let me welcome today's guest, Kris Verstockt. Welcome to the show, Kris.
Thanks for having me.
So you are joining us today from your office in the Nehu district, is that right?
That is correct. We have set up an office in Nehu. Actually, I've lived in Nehu for 27 years, so this is my home away from home.
Okay.
When I moved to Taiwan, I said, look, I live so far away from my family anyway, I may as well live close to my work. So I'm very close, walking distance.
Oh, walking distance. Okay, that's really good. That's very convenient. Okay. And to start today's show, we want to get to know you a little better. So could you take us through a little bit about your background and what brought you to Taiwan in the first place?
Okay. So actually, I'm originally from Belgium, Antwerp. I studied graphic design in Antwerp, and then I had an opportunity to go study in London. It is in London that I studied actually product design. I switched in the middle a little bit. And it's in London that by coincidence, a owner of a Taiwanese company saw my year-end work. And he was impressed with it. And he actually asked me if I want to come to Taiwan for 6 months. And that's how the relationship started. So I got a call somewhere in a telephone booth in London from a guy that I've never met. And he said, do you want to come to Taiwan? And I actually enjoyed living outside of Belgium already. So for me, the 6 month extra experience in another country, even another continent, looked very enticing. So I said, why not? I'll do that. So that's how I ended up in Taiwan. The person that got me to come here owned a big OEM electronics firm in Taiwan. I started working there, and then that became a business relationship. The 6 months grew into a year. The year grew into a long-term contract. And then there was a point when I was working for Primex for about 7 years. The company is called Primex. I worked for them for 7 years, and then I said, look, I really have to go back to Belgium and start my career there. And the owner said, we really don't want you to go. What if we spin off the design team that we have set up for you? And you promise that you'll work another 3 years for us, and then we will give you the company. So I called my parents in Belgium, and I talked to my dad, and my dad said, nobody in Belgium is going to give a 20-year-old guy a company, so you should give it a try. And that's how I arrived in Taiwan.
You landed up in Taiwan. So you're just like many foreigners who decide, we're just going to go there for 6 months, and now 27 years later, you're here. Okay. So you mentioned that you were working in Primex for 7 years, and then, you established CRE8 in 2001 with their help. Not everyone could have received such an opportunity. So definitely it was you in the right time, right place. Do you believe that luck plays a very big part in, just getting that right break at the right time?
Yeah, sadly enough, yes, because luck is not something you can emulate very quickly. So hard work is needed, is a given, but you need to have a little bit of luck. So In all honesty, when they asked me to come to Taiwan, I didn't even know where Taiwan was. So I was not informed about the work situation in Taiwan. I just wanted to experience another 6 months in another country. That's what basically was the first decision. But then comes a little bit seeing opportunities. So when I arrived in Taiwan, I worked very hard, and I very quickly realized, wait a minute, I have something to offer here that makes me somewhat unique. Because of that, at a very young age, I'm going to get opportunities that I won't get in Belgium.
Yes.
And that's something I realized. That's something that really became very clear to me fairly quick. And then it's easier to do hard work. It's more interesting because I moved through the Taiwan business world at a very young age, very quickly. To the point that actually this is an interesting part, that initially when I said, look, I want to go back to Belgium, initially I talked again to my parents, what should I do? And my dad said, well, first, before you do that, you've worked very hard, go back to Primax and make them a ridiculous offer. Ask a ridiculous raise. And if they say yes, then stay a little bit.
Then you know how valuable you are. Yes.
Yeah. So I did that. And the owner of the company said, look, and that goes back a little bit about what I was talking about before, is that he said, you're too young to make that kind of a salary within our company structure. I simply cannot do that. My older managers are gonna get very angry. I cannot do that. And that's how he came back with the counter offer. But what if we spin you up into a new company? Because then I can work around that and we can set up another business deal.
Yeah. So you really put yourself out there. You really put yourself out there and took those risks that probably a person at the age of 20 or 21 wouldn't do that. Yes.
And they should, in my opinion.
Yes.
I think too many people, I think we all get a fair share of opportunities in our life. This is, you can call it karma, you can call it life.
Yes.
But I sometimes see people not jumping on those opportunities and taking a chance, if you can call it that. And for me, at such a young age, what did I have to lose? Nothing.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the time when you can take risks. You can afford to take risks.
So step out of your comfort zone. Have some luck and work very hard.
Good advice. Yes, definitely. I want to go back to your company now. Your company services, I was going through your website, and it's very clear that your services include branding, product design, and manufacturing solutions. So did you start with all three verticals when you established the company, or did you just start with one and then expand it into the others?
Yeah, no, not at all. I started with my core competence. Right, so my core competence at that point was product design, and that's also the service of the work I was doing in Primax. So I gained 6 years experience in product design. So it's smart that at the beginning of your career, really try to find out what is my expertise, where do I stand out, and focus on that. And then these other services they logically follow over time. So after some work, a few years doing product design only, my clients started to ask, hey, you guys have designed the product, the spirit, the idea behind it. Why don't you do the packaging too? We have problems with packaging design. Having a graphic design degree from Belgium, I felt confident enough to say, okay, I'm probably going to be able to do that. And that grew into a branding team. Packaging, then manuals, then product naming, and now it is also company naming and the visual aspect of building a brand. And then for mechanical engineering, it went a little bit different, is that as designers, if we do our work properly, we challenge engineers because we come up with new ideas, and new innovation is always new challenges. So we very quickly run into engineers going, we're not sure if we can do this. We have never seen this before. So we hired somebody for ourselves to support us in saying, and in opening engineering minds by saying, hey guys, watch out, what of this? And if you do it this way or that way. So that's how we got an engineer. And then from there on, the path was similar. Our client said, hey, you have an engineer. Can you help us design a product, engineer the product for us? Again, you designed it. Why not engineer it?
Wow, that's really inspiring. So basically, you played to your strengths initially, and then organically, your company just expanded into different divisions. Yeah,
correctly. But I want to say one warning there. You also need to know your limitations. So
yes.
For instance, through that same process, our clients started asking me, "Why don't you do electrical engineering and PC board design?" And that's where I knew, no, this is not where I'm an added value.
You drew the line.
I don't know. I cannot judge if an electrical engineer does a good job or a bad job. That's not what I know for myself. And so that's when we said, this is too far, because clients will keep asking and ask. So you need to know
your ceiling.
Where do you add value and where not, and don't take that kind of a job because you
risk.
In my opinion, sooner or later.
No, that's very good advice. Yeah. So let's go to the part where a company approaches you, say, for a service. And many companies, they expect solutions within unrealistic timeframes. So how do you navigate around that? What's your,
It's a two-stage answer. At the beginning of my career, at the beginning of any career, this is tough, because it's difficult to say no to income. But you have to really see that you're in a position where you can say, these people are not going to allow me to do my job properly. If I cannot do my job properly, I will give a bad service. If I will give a bad service, I will get a bad name. And that's the worst. We live by our name. So you need to see that you can be in a position, I can survive by saying no to certain projects because I can't do a good job. I had a little bit the luck that, again, Primex was my first customer. So I had an income from the beginning. So that gave me very early on the opportunity to really say no to clients, because
and test your boundaries.
There is no such thing as doing something super fast and super good at a super good price.
Those three things don't go together.
Later in my career, it's kind of the structure, our pricing structure, it doesn't make sense. So we're easily one of the more expensive design houses in Asia. And then it's very easy to tell a customer, why pay so much money if you're not going to allow us to do our job properly? It's kind of a waste, because we can't. We need to do we need to go through certain steps and phases in order to innovate. And so that became purely financially no problem. And because a good client would say, that's true. I'm actually paying a lot of money. I should get the best service. It's like paying for a 5-star hotel and not using the swimming pool.
Yes, of course. If anyone goes to your website, they can immediately see you have some top companies and top brands that you've worked for. And sure, that's important because you've got to bring in the revenue. But have you ever felt like, maybe it's a startup business, they don't have a lot of capital, but their project is very interesting. Have you taken on such kind of projects to help them?
We have projects where we believe watch out, there is startup and startup. I also, and this is especially for young entrepreneurs, never work for free. It does not work. You have even if you just come from school, you have a set of skills, you have an expertise that you bring to the table, you should get paid for that. Point period, So we never worked for free, or we never worked under value. And we also seldomly work for commission or anything like that, because it's very difficult for us to gauge future business. So you say, okay, don't pay me now, but I take 3% on every product sold. But once the project leaves our offices, we don't really know how many they sell. So it's very easy for
it's difficult to track.
Even if the client doesn't do anything, to feel awkward that maybe they sold more and we're not getting our commission. So we have done things cheap. We have never done anything for free. And I laugh a little bit because, especially when you're in design, this pops up a lot. I'll design quickly, make me a logo. You're my friend. Do it quickly for free, and you shouldn't. You should. Even if it's below value, you should get paid.
Good. That's good advice. Yes. Especially for a lot of entrepreneurs out there. Yeah.
And another one there, and then I'll move on. Don't never work for thinking, almost in the beginning especially, but 90% of our clients will try to start with, do it very cheap for me now, and later I will give you a great project.
The promise of, yeah.
Little advice I can give to entrepreneurs is you can counter that very easily. You say, no, I'm going to ask full price now. If you are doing everything right, the next project I will do almost for free.
Yes.
Turn it around on them.
Yeah, turn it around.
A lot.
No, that's good. Yes. And, you were talking about the creative process. The creative process, as many creative people know, it never ends. It's not time bound. So if somebody was to join this profession or pursue this career, what do the working hours look like? Is it a fixed 9 to 6 job, or does it require more flexibility?
We are somewhat flexible in the sense that I'm not the kind of boss that stands by the door at 9 o'clock and you were 5 minutes late. I don't do that. We don't have a system here with cards. You come in at a reasonable time, do your amount of hours, and that in that sense we are flexible. But many people think, designers, they work until late at night. To be frank, I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, if it's 11 o'clock at night, you're not going to be very bright and innovative. So try to keep normal hours. See that you work, 8 hours a day. And when they'll start and finish, that's up to my guys. They can almost decide that themselves. But do your and if you have to do overtime, it happens 2-3 times a year. But if you constantly have to do overtime, you're doing something wrong. There is something in your process.
And your burnout. Yeah.
But in the same time, designers never stop working, but it's on a different level. So we will gain inspiration out of daily life. So even when we're at home, we're still designers. And we're still thinking, we're seeing things to the point that it's sometimes...
Can you give an example of that? Can you give an example of, like, when you're at home and you suddenly get inspired, like, that's a great idea.
I'll give you one that my wife likes to use, which is somewhat embarrassing, but it's true. And this is in Taiwan. We tend to look at things differently, and we tend to find ideas that they call it cross-pollination. You see something in one product, and you apply the similar thinking in a completely different category. And that turns out to be innovative. So one time I'm shopping with my wife in Taiwan, and the lady in the store was putting new clothing on the mannequin. But I didn't look at it that way. And she was putting an arm in the mannequin, and I found the mechanism very interesting. And so I started looking at it. But to outsiders, it looked that I was looking at a naked mannequin, and my wife was very embarrassed. Why are you looking at that naked mannequin? I said, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm looking at the joint for So we never stopped. But that was a funny case where my wife was somewhat embarrassed by my designer thinking.
Yes, thank you. And that's a nice share. I'm going to change tack a bit here now, and ask you, if somebody was interested in exploring this particular field, what specific qualifications would they need? I know you mentioned product design, mechanical engineering. Does it encompass any more, or what other qualifications would they need?
Yeah, in general, you can look at the design disciplines as designer is a little bit of a mindset. And if you're a fashion designer or a product designer or a graphic designer, you have that mindset or you don't. It's something that you're I can't explain it myself. And actually being a product designer or a fashion designer, that's just the tools, So you can learn the tools of the trade. So it is possible for a fashion designer to become a product designer. It's also possible for a mechanical engineer to become a product designer, and the other way around. You just make your life a little bit more difficult because you need to learn a new set of tools if you jump from one discipline to the other. So if you want to become a product designer, it's best that you study to become a product designer, because you get the right tool set and you don't have to learn that afterwards. But the design sense, it's something that you will know yourselves.
It's innate.
It's innate. Strange.
Okay. And so once they get these necessary qualifications, I believe a candidate for such a job would be tested on critical thinking skills and perhaps creativity, right? If they're applying for a job. So at CRE8 itself, I'm sure that when people come in to apply for a job, you'd be measuring these two particular things in candidates. How do you measure that? Is it through problem solving scenarios? Well, what's your method?
obviously, normally we look at portfolios, past work, and we see again through their past work very, very quickly. We get a sense of do they have this design thinking? Can they solve creative problems? That we kind of see that through their portfolio, and then different. So obviously, you got to start from there. The designer needs to look to us as a person with design sense,
of course,
and then we will interview more on personal skills. So there is not a problem, but it happens a lot that somebody is extremely gifted and creative, but lacks some people skills. He's very drawn back and inward, and that's not the right
interpersonal skills. Yeah,
that's not the right. So interpersonal skills are extremely important on different levels. For instance, if you want to become a manager in create or in a design house, or I guess even in any consultancy, your interpersonal skills are almost the most important. What does the client want? What does the client says he wants? And how can we make him see what he really wants? Those are all different things. And that has, in principle, very little to do with design. So I would say 50% of our project is really selling our innovation to the client and make him believe or her believe that this is what they need and why they need it. That's pure sales. So in that
sometimes they don't even realize that's what they need till you mention it.
Most of the time they don't. And then other interpersonal skills. Not everybody needs to be a manager or a salesperson, if I can call it that. Is inter-team skills. A designer, we believe strongly that everything that leaves create comes from create, not from one designer. Then it would have been called Kris Verstockt design. It isn't, because I'm not the one doing it. It's the company, and it's our interaction between each other that makes us innovative. We feed from each other's creativity, ideas, and that's how it grows. So personal skills are very important.
Very important. Yeah. I think in all teams, like in any profession, you have to feed off each other within the team to get inspired. Yeah, absolutely. So winning awards like Red Dot and IF are definitely feathers in your cap. But other than that, is there any other award that you have your eye on, particularly for your company? Something you've always dreamed of getting.
IF and Red Dot, they're on the same level. They're kind of already the how can I call it, what is it called? The Oscars of design. So they're already the highest. But we have won many awards. We have never won the Gold Award in IF. So that would be another feather that I wouldn't mind sticking on my cap. It's very difficult. Every year it's thousands and thousands of products that enter, and to be one of two or three is an amazing feat that we have not had yet.
Well, I wish you all the best. I don't think you'll ever give up. You will always try to get that. So would you say self-motivation drives you to new heights? And is this something that professionals should have? Because some people, they need to be motivated by others. But I think in a creative field like product design, you've got to be self-motivated to drive you, isn't it?
Yes. In a way, it's a very difficult. You have to also be very confident in your beliefs, and if you don't believe in your idea, then how can you make others believe in your idea? And that's to society in general, anything new is looked upon with a little bit. Wait a minute, I'm a bit scared of touching that. So you, as a designer, need to be very convincing and very confident in making others believe that this is the right way to go for them. So drive is important in any work, but also in ours. And a little bit of fear, passion. Believe it or not. Fear is also an important factor. And fear of anybody bypassing you. So yes, you are the number one, but there's a lot of people in the background that are also trying to be the number one, right? Yeah. So the fear of missing something or not seeing a new trend, not applying a new technology, you gotta always be on your tiptoes. There's a saying that says that the moment you think you have made it, that's the moment you go bankrupt, because then you relax and you can never relax.
Yeah, you can never stop learning, never relax. Okay. But, this kind of drive, it's definitely fueled by passion, obviously. You can't sustain it in any career if you're not passionate about it. Do you agree?
Yes. This is probably big advice that I would give to anybody. Whatever you're going to do, find something that you're passionate about, whatever that is. If you find something you're passionate about, you will get good at it. If you're good at it, you will be successful. So rather than trying to be successful in something that you're not passionate about, that's a very tough uphill battle. That's something. And the only advantage maybe in design was, excuse me, that it relates to drawing and rendering and creation. And I've been doing that all my life. My parents saw me as a kid and they said, this guy needs to do something creative because I was constantly drawing and painting and doing this stuff. So it was a very easy step for me to find out what am I passionate about. But if you are not that lucky that it doesn't become visible, I'd recommend you when you start working, do 10 jobs and 10 different jobs.
Try to discover it.
You say, hey, wait a minute, this is really cool. This makes me, wake up in the morning, and that's the one you should focus on.
Yeah. I think you've kind of answered the last question that I generally ask all of my guests. I end the podcast by saying, what's the one bit of career advice you'd like to leave the listeners with? And you've kind of answered it, but I mean, do you have anything else to add? I mean, I'm sure they'd love to hear something more.
Maybe I'm checking the camera here on my side. Everything's okay. So, maybe a little bit of synopsis of what has been said already today, right? So, at the beginning of your career, never do anything for the sake of money. I came to Taiwan as a young student. My start salary in Taiwan was the same start salary as Taiwanese people. No expats, no housing, no. So very tough financially, but extremely rewarding in terms of knowledge gain and also personal gain. So at the beginning of career, if you're doing something because a job makes you a little bit more, don't. Go for passion. 10 years. Be poor. There's nothing embarrassing about being poor. Actually, something good about it. So don't do anything for money. Do everything out of passion. Secondary, take risks when opportunities arise and you get this feeling a little bit, should I do it? Do it. You're young and you can always see what happens from it. And then thirdly, don't sell yourself too cheap either. So that the three things that I would think as a young entrepreneur, and that has nothing to do with design. That could be applied in
any career,
whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kris. It was lovely having you on our podcast today. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners will appreciate all the advice you've given them. And we wish you all the very best with CRE8.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I hope I inspired at least one person, then I'm already happy.
Thank you. I'm sure you've inspired many, not just one. Thank you very much, Kris.
Take care. ITI 成立于30年，已为台湾培育数千名精通商用英日语、实务经贸的商业精英，校友遍布台湾100大知名企业。借由1年密集培训，建构您的专业知识、稳健台风以及自信。赶紧搜寻 ITI， 跨出职涯成功的第一步。感谢您的收看，别忘了按下订阅按钮，开启小铃铛，并给我们一个赞哦。本频道由经济部国际贸易局赞助，外贸协会 ITI 企划播出。